Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at a guy who absolutely rewrote the rules of modern history. We're talking about a leader whose sheer charisma turned him into a living symbol of hope for a whole new generation. Yep, the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. This is the man who kicked off the space race, stared right into the abyss of a literal nuclear apocalypse, and whose tragic end still has the entire world talking today. I'm so excited to get into this one with you, so let's just jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. How on earth does a man who represented such profound hope, such a vibrant vision of the future, meet a sudden, devastating end? Who was the actual guy behind that confident, iconic smile we've all seen in the historical footage? Today, we're going to contrast his monumental, energetic legacy with the deeply dark mysteries surrounding his assassination. We've got a ton of ground to cover, so let's start at the beginning.
Section 1. Wealth, illness, and war. Because, every classic tragic hero's journey has to start with overcoming some serious adversity.
Born on May 29, 1917, JFK stepped into a world of massive luxury. His family in Brookline, Massachusetts was incredibly wealthy and practically dripping with political influence. His dad, Joseph Kennedy, was a major powerhouse businessman and diplomat. But actually, behind closed doors, his life wasn't a breeze at all. There was this crazy stark contrast between his family's billions and the severe, chronic physical pain he secretly dealt with right from childhood.
A huge piece of that secret battle was Addison's disease. It's a really rare endocrine disorder. You combine that with agonizing, debilitating back problems, and the guy was challenged every single day of his life. But here's the takeaway. His resilience was off the charts. He absolutely refused to let his physical body dictate his massive ambitions.
And that unyielding resilience brings us to 1943. World War II's raging, and Kennedy is serving in the U.S. Navy. During a mission, his patrol boat, the PT-109, gets violently rammed. It was literally sliced completely in half by a Japanese destroyer in the dead of night.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly the kind of character we're talking about. Despite his already wrecked back, JFK swam for hours. And he didn't just save himself, he towed a severely wounded crewman to safety. How? By literally clenching the strap of the guy's life jacket between his teeth as he swam. Just unbelievable. That extraordinary act of heroism got him military medals and essentially poured the concrete for his entire political foundation.
Section 2. The first television president. Now, after his older brother Joe Jr. was tragically killed in action, JFK felt this huge drive to fulfill his father's political dreams, pushing him right up through Congress and into the Senate.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how a brand new piece of technology completely flipped the script during the 1960 presidential campaign against Richard Nixon. Check out this contrast from the first ever televised debate. People listening on the radio, they actually thought Nixon won. But the millions of Americans watching on their brand new TV sets saw something entirely different. Nixon looked pale, he was sweating, he looked exhausted. Kennedy, on the other hand, was tan, calm, and totally confident. It's a real game changer that shows how television fundamentally rewired American politics forever. And man, did it work out for him. At just 43 years old, JFK won the election. That made him the youngest man ever elected president of the United States. Plus, it was a massive cultural milestone, as he became the first Roman Catholic to ever hold the office.
He managed to perfectly capture all of that youth and energy in his inaugural address. It's a speech that challenged the whole world and defined a new generation, anchored by these unforgettable words: "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country."
Section 3. Navigating the ultimate stakes. Now, we're shifting into high suspense. His presidency didn't even last 3 full years, but it packed in some of the most intense, nail-biting moments in all of human history.
Basically, his incredibly brief time in the Oval Office was built on 3 monumental pillars: the Cuban Missile Crisis, the space race, and the Civil Rights Movement. Let's do a quick overview of these so we really get why they matter so much.
First up, 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Soviet Union secretly parked nuclear missiles in Cuba. We're talking a mere 90 miles off the coast of Florida. This was it, the absolute closest humanity has ever come to total nuclear annihilation. So, the crucial point is this. JFK's own generals were demanding airstrikes, but he refused. Instead, he set up a naval blockade and used some absolute masterclass diplomacy to force the Soviets to back down. He literally saved the world from World War III.
But he wasn't just focused on avoiding doomsday, he was looking way up. In 1961, JFK made this incredibly bold declaration. America was going to land a man on the moon and bring him safely back before the decade was out. And even though it's a tragedy he didn't live to see it, that massive visionary promise actually became a reality with Apollo 11 in 1969.
Meanwhile, back down on Earth, he was focused on domestic progress. He started working directly with monumental leaders in the civil rights movement, folks like Martin Luther King Jr., to lay down the really essential groundwork for major civil rights legislation. Just another example of how forward-looking his leadership was.
Section 4. The Tragedy in Dallas. Let's move to and see how this builds into the day the world essentially stopped turning, November 22, 1963.
Despite all that incredible momentum, everything came to a devastating halt. The rapid, totally chaotic escalation here is just staggering. JFK and his wife Jackie are on a political trip in Dallas, waving to the crowds from an open-top limo. At exactly 12:30 p.m., shots echo across Dealey Plaza. Kennedy is hit and pronounced dead shortly after. Just a few hours later, police arrest Lee Harvey Oswald. But then, and this is where things get truly shocking, 2 days later, while the police are transferring Oswald, he gets shot and killed on live national television by a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby. The prime suspect was publicly murdered before he could ever see the inside of a courtroom.
Section 5. Legacy and Unanswered Questions. Because Oswald never stood trial, this whole event became the ultimate breeding ground for historical debate.
Without a trial to unpack the facts, nature abhorred the vacuum, right? So the theories just exploded. You've got the lone gunman theory, which says Oswald acted entirely alone. Then you have theories pointing to the CIA or the Mafia, suggesting it was an inside job driven by political enemies. And of course, there are theories that the Soviet KGB orchestrated it as retaliation for all that intense Cold War tension. Now, I want to be 100% clear with you. In this explainer, we are absolutely not taking sides or endorsing any of these viewpoints. We're just impartially laying out the source material to explore exactly why these ideas have persisted for over 6 decades.
But regardless of all the noise and theories surrounding his death, the facts of his life speak for themselves. John F. Kennedy left behind a truly monumental legacy. He injected this vibrant youth, energy, and unshakable optimism right into the heart of modern leadership. Even though his life was cut so tragically short, he proved that courage and vision can pull us through our darkest, most terrifying hours.
So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. What do you think really happened in Dallas that day? Was there more to the story, or did Lee Harvey Oswald act entirely alone? I highly encourage you to think critically about the source material we covered today and keep exploring this wild chapter of history for yourself. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and until next time, stay curious and keep learning.